There is a kind of beauty that cannot be dressed up, performed, or manufactured. A presence that is felt long before it is seen. A magnetism that does not chase, does not convince, does not negotiate for attention, yet somehow it draws people in effortlessly. And here is the paradox that no one tells you. The more you try to be irresistible, the less irresistible you become. Because trying is a frequency. Wanting approval is a frequency. And every frequency communicates itself before a single word leaves your mouth. You've probably felt this in your own life. Those moments when you wanted someone to notice you, and the harder you tried, the more invisible you became. And then there were other times. Maybe you were calm, centered, not performing for anyone. And suddenly people paid attention without you doing anything different. Why does that happen? Why do some people walk into a room and instantly shift the atmosphere, while others try endlessly and remain unnoticed? It isn't luck. It isn't beauty standards. It isn't charisma or extroversion or social skills. It's energy. A silent, unmistakable field that surrounds you, shaped by your inner world, your wounds, your shadow, and your relationship with yourself. Jung didn't call it vibration, but he understood it deeply. He wrote that the unconscious is a living reality, a magnetic field that others feel even when we don't. And that is the foundation of irresistible energy. People do not respond to who you pretend to be. They respond to the truth your energy is broadcasting. Maybe right now, you've spent years trying to be confident, trying to be attractive, trying to be chosen, trying to be enough. And maybe you don't understand why it never quite works, why the people you want pull away, why you feel invisible in rooms where you desperately want to shine, why the relationships you give everything to still don't hold. It's not because you're not special. It's not because you're not beautiful. It's not because you're not worthy. It's because trying is the energy of lack, and lack repels. Whereas presence, real, embodied, grounded presence, pulls people in without effort. Think about the last time you were around someone who didn't need to prove anything. They didn't talk the loudest. They didn't compete. They didn't perform. They were simply there, steady, self-possessed, aligned, and you felt it. Because that's what irresistible energy is. A nervous system that is not begging, not chasing, not grasping. A heart that is full instead of hungry. A soul that is not negotiating for love, but radiating from self-acceptance. So let me ask you something. Not to judge you, but to bring you inward. When you walk into a room, what enters first? Your presence or your fear? What do people feel when they meet you? Your essence or your insecurity? What is louder? Your confidence or your need for validation? These are uncomfortable questions, but they open the door to the truth. Irresistible energy has nothing to do with effort. It comes from alignment. Because every time you chase, you step out of your center. Every time you try to impress, you abandon your authenticity. Every time you perform for approval, you disconnect from your soul. And the further you drift from yourself, the weaker your magnetism becomes. But when you return to your center, when you drop the performance, when you stop demanding a reaction from the world, something shifts. Your energy becomes quiet but powerful, soft but undeniable, calm but unforgettable. Energy that does not need becomes energy that attracts. Energy that does not grasp becomes energy that receives. Energy that does not chase becomes energy that commands the room without saying a word. This is the secret we are going to explore today. The kind of inner frequency that makes you irresistible without trying. Not because you manipulate anything, not because you force anything, but because you finally stop abandoning yourself, and your presence becomes whole, steady, and magnetic. So before we go deeper, take a breath. Slow down for just a moment. Feel your body where you're sitting. Let your shoulders drop. Let your chest soften. Let the noise inside you settle, even if only a little. Because as you watch this, something in you is already shifting. You wouldn't be here if you weren't ready. And the version of you who is truly irresistible, calm, grounded, and effortlessly magnetic has been waiting for your attention for a long time. Let's begin. 1. The paradox that grabs you. There is a strange paradox about human attraction that almost nobody understands. The moment you try to be irresistible, you stop being irresistible. Because trying is not confidence. Trying is not magnetism. Trying is the energy of fear dressed as effort. You can feel this in your own life. Think about the people who have pulled you in the most. They weren't performing, weren't chasing, weren't proving. They were simply there, fully embodied, grounded, steady. Their energy entered the room before their words did. And you felt it immediately. Now compare that to the moments when you tried too hard, when you wanted someone to notice you, approve of you, choose you. Your smile tightened, your body stiffened, your presence shrank. You tried to appear confident, but beneath it was the frequency of, "Please see me, please like me, please don't leave." And people feel that, not consciously, but instinctively. Humans are wired to sense the emotional truth beneath behavior, and nothing repels like the energy of self-abandonment. Here is the real secret. Irresistibility is not created through addition. It emerges through subtraction. You remove the need to impress. You remove the fear of not being enough. You remove the inner noise that begs for validation. When those layers fall away, what remains is presence. Quiet, confident, unforced presence. A frequency that says, "I am not here to perform. I am here to exist fully." And that kind of energy, that calm, self-possessed center, is what people cannot ignore. Because attraction isn't born from trying. It's born from alignment, when your inner world is no longer begging, grasping, or negotiating for worth. That is the paradox. When you finally stop trying to be magnetic, your energy becomes impossible to look away from. 2. Bringing your emotions back into humanity. Before we go deeper, you need to hear something important. There is nothing wrong with you for wanting to be seen, loved, and chosen. Every human being carries that longing. It's ancient. It's instinctive. It comes from the part of you that once needed connection to survive. So if you've ever found yourself trying too hard, waiting for someone to text back, adjusting your personality to be liked, or feeling that sinking fear when someone pulls away, that doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. Your nervous system learned early in life that attention equals safety. Approval equals belonging. And belonging equals survival. So of course you tried. Of course you cared too much. Of course you shaped yourself around the people you loved. There is no shame in that. What becomes painful is not the longing itself, but the belief that you must earn love to deserve it. The belief that if you don't perform, impress, or please, you will be forgotten. And here's the truth most people never realize. The behaviors you judge in yourself were once coping mechanisms that protected you. They were the best strategies you had with the emotional tools you were given. So instead of blaming yourself for the ways you sought approval, let's do something different. Let's understand them. Let's slow down enough to see the wound beneath the pattern. Because when you can finally meet that part of you with compassion instead of shame, your energy begins to shift. And that shift, from fear to understanding, from self-criticism to self-connection, is the first step toward becoming effortlessly irresistible. 3. The questions that turn you inward. Now that we've softened the shame around wanting to be loved, I want to guide you into a deeper place, a place where the truth of your energy reveals itself. To get there, you must be willing to answer questions most people never ask themselves. So take a breath and be honest, even if the answers feel uncomfortable. When you walk into a room, what enters first? Your presence or your anxiety? Do people meet your essence? Or do they meet the tightness in your chest, the guarded smile, the subtle fear of being judged? Are you truly expressing who you are, or are you acting out the version of yourself you believe is acceptable? The version that learned long ago. If I'm easy, people will stay. If I don't upset anyone, I'll be safe. If I'm agreeable, I won't be abandoned. And in your relationships, are you seeking connection, or are you seeking reassurance? Because connection comes from wholeness. Reassurance comes from an old wound that hasn't been held gently enough. Be honest. When someone doesn't text back, does your mind start racing to fill the silence? Do you replay your last message, searching for what you did wrong? Do you suddenly shrink your energy to avoid being disappointed? When you're around someone you're drawn to, do you breathe freely? Or do you hold your breath without noticing, hoping they won't see your nervousness? These tiny reactions reveal something essential. Your body carries your emotional history, and others feel that history before they ever understand you. So ask yourself with courage, what story is my energy telling, long before I speak? Not to blame yourself, but to finally see yourself clearly enough to change the frequency you live from. 4. Defining irresistible energy. Before we go any further, we need to name the truth clearly. Irresistible energy has nothing to do with beauty, personality, or performance. It is the natural outcome of a regulated nervous system and an aligned inner world. It is what happens when your soul is no longer negotiating for worth, and your energy stops leaking through fear, overthinking, or self-abandonment. Let me explain it simply. There are people who walk into a room with noise inside them: insecurity, tension, fear of rejection, mental rehearsing, emotional contraction. Even if they smile, even if they look confident, the internal chaos is still felt. Then there are people who walk into the same room with quietness. Not the quietness of withdrawal, but the quietness of someone who is not at war with themselves. This is irresistible energy. It's the way someone's presence expands instead of contracts. It's the calmness in their eyes that says, "I am not performing for you." It's the steadiness in their body that communicates, "I am rooted in myself." It's the openness in their expression that whispers, "I am safe in who I am." You can't fake this. You can't force it, because irresistible energy is not a mask. It's the absence of masks. And Jung understood this deeply. He wrote there that the unconscious is a living force, and that everything we suppress becomes a silent influence on others. What you hide is not gone. It becomes vibration. What you fear is not invisible. It becomes frequency. So when someone's energy is irresistible, it's because their unconscious is not running the show. They are not projecting old wounds onto new people. They are not chasing validation through behavior. Their presence is not shaped by fear, but by self-connection. Let's break it down even more clearly. Irresistible energy is composed of 3 states. States 1, emotional stillness. You're not restless. You're not anxiously scanning the room. Your energy holds a slow, grounded rhythm, and people instinctively feel safe around it. States 2, embodied self-respect. Not arrogance, not distancing, just an inner boundary that says, "I do not betray myself to be liked." This alone changes your entire frequency. States 3, unfiltered essence. Your personality is not edited. Your truth is not diluted. You're not performing to be chosen. You're simply being, and being is magnetic. When these 3 states come together, your energy becomes unmistakable. It doesn't shout. It doesn't seek attention. It doesn't chase connection. It pulls. It softens people. It awakens curiosity. It makes others lean toward you without knowing why. Because irresistible energy is not about getting others to see your value. It's about feeling your value so deeply that the world has no choice but to respond. 5. The unconscious loop that creates chasing energy. To understand irresistible energy, we first have to understand the energy that destroys attraction. The energy of chasing, of reaching outward, of subtly begging for connection without realizing it. And this is where the unconscious comes in, because most people don't chase with their actions. They chase with their frequency. Let's go deeper. From childhood, your nervous system learned rules about love. When did you feel seen? When did you feel ignored? What did you have to do to feel safe? Did you have to be easy, good, quiet, impressive, responsible, perfect, just to earn basic affection? Every moment of emotional inconsistency becomes a blueprint, a map your unconscious uses to predict how love works. If love felt unpredictable, your body learned to monitor the emotional weather. If love felt conditional, your body learned to perform. If love felt scarce, your body learned to chase. So later in life, you don't chase because you want to. You chase because your nervous system believes, if I don't work for it, I will lose it. And that belief becomes vibration. It shows up as subtle tension in your tone, as overthinking between text messages, as shrinking yourself to avoid rocking the boat, as trying to be the easy one, the cool one, the unbothered one. Not because you are unbothered, but because you're terrified of losing what your body equates with survival. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." And nothing directs you more quietly, or more powerfully, than the fear of abandonment. When you haven't healed that wound, your energy unconsciously broadcasts a message. Please don't leave me. Please see me. Please choose me. And people feel it instantly, even if they can't articulate why. This is why someone pulling away makes your stomach drop. This is why silence feels like danger. This is why even a small delay in response triggers self-doubt. Not because you're dramatic, but because your childhood nervous system still believes that loss equals danger. And here is the painful truth. Chasing is not a behavior. It's a survival reflex. You're not clingy. You're not desperate. You're not too much. Your body simply learned to equate presence with safety, so absence feels like a threat. And threats activate old protective patterns. But these patterns do something tragic. They push away the very connection you long for. Because the energy of chasing always tells another person, I am not whole within myself. I need you to regulate me. I need you to choose me so I can feel safe. And while no one consciously judges that, their body senses it and instinctively pulls away, not because they are rejecting you, but because they can feel the emotional labor your energy is asking them to carry. This is the loop. You want connection. Your old wound activates. You shift into anxious frequency. Your energy becomes heavy or grasping. The other person retreats. Your nervous system panics. You chase more. They retreat further. And the cycle repeats. Nothing is wrong with you. Nothing is broken in you. Your body is simply repeating an emotional ritual it learned long before you had words. But here's the breakthrough. The moment you recognize the pattern begins to lose its power. Awareness breaks the spell. Presence interrupts the loop. Self-connection stabilizes the frequency that used to destabilize you. And once that shift begins, you stop chasing without even trying to stop. Because suddenly, your body no longer believes that someone else's attention is oxygen. This is where irresistible energy begins, not by adding confidence, but by removing the unconscious fear that keeps you reaching outward instead of resting in yourself. 6. The ego and the warped shape of magnetism. To understand why your energy sometimes loses its natural magnetism, we need to talk about one of the most misunderstood forces in psychology, the ego. Most people think the ego is arrogance, pride, or superiority. But that's not the ego. That's the ego defending itself. The ego itself is simply the part of you that was built to protect your identity. It's the mask you crafted when you were too young to survive without one. It's the version of you that learned, this is who I have to be safe, accepted, or loved. The ego is not the enemy. It's a survival strategy, but it becomes a problem when it starts shaping your relationships, your energy, and your sense of worth. Because the ego doesn't want connection. It wants control. It wants predictability. It wants to avoid pain at all costs, even if that means sabotaging closeness. And here is the part that damages your magnetism the most. The ego constantly tries to manage how others see you. It makes you rehearse your texts. It makes you monitor your tone. It makes you choose outfits to be approved. It makes you talk or stay silent for the wrong reasons. It makes you hide your depth, your softness, your real self, all because it believes your truth is unsafe. The ego whispers, if they see the real you, you'll lose them. If you don't stay in control, you'll get hurt. If you don't present perfectly, you'll be rejected. So what does the ego do? It performs. It postures. It polishes. It edits. It curates. It pretends to be effortless while working incredibly hard underneath. And here's the tragic paradox. The more the ego tries to make you look desirable, the less irresistible your energy becomes. Because people don't fall in love with your perfection. They fall in love with your presence. And the ego cannot be present. It can only perform. So instead of magnetism, the ego creates distortion. You appear confident, but something feels tense. You appear friendly, but something feels guarded. You appear calm, but something feels rehearsed. You appear easygoing, but something feels disconnected. Humans are intuitive. We feel the gap between someone's surface and their truth. That gap is the ego. And the larger the gap, the weaker your magnetism becomes. Let me show you how the ego shapes your energy in relationships. The ego tries to impress. This creates the frequency of I am not enough unless you approve. People feel that need instantly. The ego tries to predict. You start anticipating rejection before it happens. Your energy becomes tense, strategic, unnatural. The ego tries to protect you, become cautious, overly controlled, emotionally armored. The energy becomes cold instead of magnetic. The ego tries to perform. Every gesture becomes effortful. Every interaction becomes an audition. And the more you perform, the more disconnected you become. All of this comes from fear. Fear of abandonment. Fear of being seen. Fear of not being enough. But here's what Jung understood. The ego is loud. The soul is quiet. People are drawn to the quiet one. Not the noise, not the masks, not the performing identity. The calmness, the self-honesty, the grounded beingness. Irresistible energy comes from alignment. The ego softened, the nervous system regulated, the real self allowed to breathe. And the more you relax your ego, the more your energy expands naturally, without forcing, chasing, impressing, or pretending. That expansion is what people feel, and that feeling is where attraction truly lives. 7. The mechanism behind soft but magnetic energy. Once the ego softens, something remarkable begins to happen inside you. Your entire energetic field reorganizes itself. And this reorganization creates the quality I call gentle magnetism. Not the loud kind of magnetism that demands attention. Not the seductive performance that tries to prove worth. Not the manufactured confidence that feels stiff or theatrical. Gentle magnetism is different. It is calm. It is subtle. It feels like gravity. Quiet, steady, undeniable. It doesn't pull people toward you by force. It invites them softly, without pressure. And because there is no pressure, People open naturally. Let's break down the psychology behind it. When your nervous system is dysregulated, when you're anxious, attached, or afraid, your energy becomes sharp, fast, erratic. Even if you try to appear composed, your frequency communicates urgency. Urgency is repelling. The body instinctively withdraws from anything that feels like emotional demand or unspoken expectation. But when your nervous system is regulated, when your breath slows, your chest opens, when you feel connected to yourself, your energy becomes warm, coherent, rhythmic. People relax around coherent energy. They feel safe. They feel seen without being evaluated. They feel comfortable dropping their guard. This is why the calmest person in the room often becomes the most magnetic one. Not because they're louder, not because they're trying, but because their internal rhythm is stable enough for others to synchronize with it. Humans are wired for attunement. We gravitate toward whatever feels regulated. It's biological, it's unconscious, it's irresistible. This is gentle magnetism. Let me describe what it looks like. Your presence slows the environment when you speak. People listen, not because you demand it, but because your pace invites attention. Your eyes communicate safety. You look at people without scanning, judging, or seeking approval. Your gaze is steady, soft, held. People feel rooted in that gaze. Your body holds calm, openness. Your shoulders drop. Your breath is deep. Your micro-expressions stay fluid. Nothing about you feels forced. Your energy doesn't chase. You're not leaning forward, not trying to read the room, not adjusting yourself to please. You sit back, grounded in your center, and the room reorganizes around your stillness. Your silence has weight. You don't rush to fill pauses. You let the moment breathe. This makes people lean in, literally and energetically. Gentle magnetism comes from a person who is not in a battle within themselves. They're not trying to fix the past in every interaction. They're not projecting fears into neutral situations. They're not performing a version of themselves to earn approval. Their energy says, I am here, I am whole, I am open, and I am not rushing toward or away from anyone. People feel that. They trust it. They're drawn to it. And here's the final secret. You can only have gentle magnetism when you stop needing others to complete you, soothe you, or validate you. Because the moment your worth is no longer outsourced, your energy stops reaching outward. It begins to radiate outward. Radiation is magnetic. Reaching is repelling. That shift, from reaching to radiating, is the essence of irresistible energy. 8. The self-inquiry that reveals your energy field. Now that you understand the mechanics behind gentle magnetism, I want to guide you into a moment of deep self-reflection. Because transformation doesn't begin with adding new behaviors. It begins with seeing your own energy clearly. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions. Let them land. Let them echo inside you. Don't rush to answer. Just notice what rises. What is the first thing your energy says when you enter a room? Does it say, I am grounded? Or does it whisper, please accept me? This question alone can reveal an entire history of emotional patterning. Do you walk into spaces expecting to be welcomed, or bracing to be evaluated? Your expectations shape your frequency long before your words shape the conversation. When someone looks at you, do you soften, or do you tighten? Your body always tells the truth your mouth doesn't speak. Are you choosing people, or are you hoping they choose you so you can feel worthy? There is a world of difference between desire and dependency. One expands your energy, the other contracts it instantly. When someone pulls away slightly, do you stay centered, or do you immediately lean forward? Leaning forward is a sign of emotional overinvestment before true connection is even established. Are you listening to others, or monitoring how they perceive you? One creates presence, the other creates performance. And the most important question: do you trust your energy enough to let it speak for you? Or do you constantly feel the need to manage impressions? If you don't trust your energy, no one else will know how to feel you. These questions aren't meant to shame you. They are mirrors. They reveal how much of your life has been lived from fear, and how ready you are to return to yourself. Because awareness is the first moment your energy begins to shift. And when your energy shifts, your entire relational world begins to transform. Here is Section 9 rewritten with all Vietnamese elements removed and replaced with English equivalents, while keeping the structure, tone, and content exactly the same. No new content added. Only the Vietnamese words such as phrases have been converted into English. 9. Micro-expressions of your energy. Field. At this point, you already understand that energy speaks before words, before gestures, before intention. But what most people don't realize is that your energy communicates itself through micro-expressions, subtle unconscious signals that reveal the truth you're carrying inside. You cannot disguise them. You cannot fake them. You cannot act your way out of them. Because micro-expressions are not controlled by the mind. They're created by the nervous system. And the nervous system never lies. Let's explore the micro-expressions that quietly weaken your magnetism, and the ones that naturally strengthen it. The micro-expression of leaning energy. This is not physical leaning. It is energetic leaning. It happens when your attention rushes outward too quickly, too eagerly, or too anxiously. It appears as responding too fast, excessive nodding, smiling, before you actually feel joy subtly leaning forward when insecurity rises, trying to fill silence too early. To the other person, this doesn't register as enthusiasm. It registers as pressure, and the body instinctively withdraws from pressure. The micro-expression of self-shrinking. This is the instant when your energy collapses inward. It's almost invisible, yet deeply felt. It shows up as narrowing shoulders, a shallow breath, your voice becoming softer, your eyes dropping even for a moment, your smile fading the second you sense disapproval. This signals to the other person, there is fear here, and fear contracts energy, yours and theirs. The micro-expression of performance mode. One of the most common patterns. It's when you're trying to appear relaxed, attractive, confident, but your body is betraying the effort. It includes holding a smile longer than feels organic eye contact, that slightly too controlled laughter, that comes half a second too soon, posture that feels posed instead of natural facial stillness, caused by trying not to show nervousness. This doesn't feel like ease. It feels like self-monitoring. People sense monitored energy immediately. The micro-expression of inner boundaries. These are the subtle signals of self-respect, signals that require no confrontation and no explanation. It looks like pausing before you speak, breathing fully while listening, keeping your shoulders open instead of contracted, looking at someone with warmth, not need allowing your face to stay expressive, not controlled resting into your body, instead of holding yourself tightly. These signals communicate, I am rooted in myself, and others are drawn to people who feel rooted. The micro-expression of energetic spaciousness. This is where magnetism becomes unmistakable. It appears as letting others come toward you, rather than reaching first, keeping your energy soft instead of sharp, responding instead of reacting, allowing emotional space instead of filling every gap, slow blinking, a relaxed gaze, fluid movements. This is the energy of someone unafraid of the moment, someone who trusts themselves enough to let connection unfold naturally. Here's the deeper truth. Micro-expressions are not tactics. They are symptoms. They reveal the state of your nervous system, the alignment of your inner world, and the beliefs you unconsciously hold. When your inner world is anxious, your micro-expressions leak anxiety. When your inner world is hungry, your micro-expressions leak need. When your inner world is grounded, your micro-expressions leak coherence, calmness, and safety. People don't fall in love with what they see. They fall in love with what they feel, and what they feel is hidden inside the micro-moments you don't consciously control. 10. Inner alchemy. Turning insecurity into gravity. If you've made it to this point, something deep inside you is already shifting, because by now, you understand that true magnetism does not come from confidence tricks, surface-level charm, or perfectly practiced behaviors. It comes from inner alchemy, the sacred process of transforming your raw, vulnerable emotional material into presence, depth, and gravity. Alchemy means transformation. It means taking something fragmented inside you, the insecurity, the fear, the self-doubt, and turning it into something powerful, stable, unmistakably magnetic. And the greatest transformation you will ever make is learning how to turn your deepest insecurities into emotional weight, the kind of weight that grounds you instead of collapsing you. Let's move into this slowly. Inside every person, there is a younger part, the part that once felt invisible, unworthy, misunderstood, or not enough. This part learned to chase love when it felt absent, to perform for approval when it felt unsafe, to overgive when it feared abandonment, to be perfect when it feared rejection. This part of you is not the enemy. It is simply the you who never felt fully held. The mistake most adults make is trying to overpower that insecure part, to shame it into silence, to bury it with self-improvement, or to hide it behind charisma or confidence. But suppression never creates magnetism. Suppression creates tightness. Tightness creates self-consciousness, and self-consciousness blocks attraction. If you want to become truly magnetic, you must do the opposite. You must bring this insecure part of you into consciousness, into compassion, into integration. Let me show you how the alchemy works. Step 1. Place your attention on the wound, not away from it. This is not about spiraling or indulging in pain. It's about recognizing the part of you that feels small without collapsing into it. When you can look at the wound without becoming the wound, you begin reclaiming your power from it. This is what Jung called holding the tension of the opposites. The ability to feel fear without obeying it, to witness insecurity without becoming enslaved by it. In that moment of awareness, the wound stops being your identity and becomes your teacher. Step 2. Release the body from the old emotional imprint. Your insecurity does not live in your thoughts. It lives in your body, in your shoulders, your breath, your jaw, your chest. A magnetic person is not someone without wounds. It is someone whose body is no longer acting out those wounds. So you begin with micro-adjustments. Unclench your jaw when old fear rises. Drop your shoulders when the past tightens your chest. Inhale slowly when your mind wants to rush into panic route. Your feet into the ground when abandonment wounds get triggered. These small somatic shifts tell your nervous system, we are not in danger anymore. And when the body feels safe, your energy expands on its own. Step 3. Transform fear into gravitational pull. This is the true magic. Every fear you carry, fear of loss, fear of being seen, fear of not being enough, contains an enormous charge. Most people run from this charge, which keeps the energy chaotic and unprocessed. But when you stay with it, when you breathe into it, witness it, let it move through the body, that same emotional charge converts into depth. Fear, when anchored, becomes gravity. It becomes emotional solidity. It becomes presence. It becomes the quiet strength people feel when they stand next to you. Some of the most magnetic people on Earth are not the ones who had easy lives. They are the ones who learned to turn their suffering into emotional weight and inner steadiness. Step 4. Live from your center, not from your wound. Your center is the place inside you that is calm, grounded, unshakable. It is the part that knows your worth with or without evidence, the part that doesn't collapse when threatened, the part that speaks softly but with certainty. When you live from this center, your insecurity doesn't vanish. It simply loses power. It stops leading your relationships. It stops leaking into your energy. It stops shaping your micro-expressions. And when the wound stops leading, your energy becomes irresistibly magnetic. Because emotional gravity is the energy of a person who is no longer running from themselves. It is the energy of someone who has alchemized their past into presence. And presence, true embodied presence, is impossible to look away from. 11. The dark night of the soul of magnetism. Every person who becomes deeply magnetic goes through a period of internal collapse, a psychological winter, a spiritual emptiness, a dissolving of identity. Jung called this a dark night of the soul, the moment when the old self can no longer survive and the new self has not yet emerged. It feels like a breaking point, but in truth, it is a breaking open. This phase arrives when you've exhausted every strategy you once used to feel worthy. The pleasing, the performing, the overgiving, the pretending, the hoping, the chasing. All the tactics that once protected you suddenly stop working. You can't pretend anymore. You can't shrink anymore. You can't force connection that doesn't nourish you. And so you begin to withdraw, not because you don't care, but because your soul is tired of negotiating for crumbs. You pull back from conversations that drain you. You let go of relationships where you feel unseen. You stop forcing yourself into spaces where your energy is not met. From the outside, it may look like isolation. Inside, it feels like disorientation. The ground beneath you feels unfamiliar. Your old identity dissolves. Your emotions feel raw. Your certainty disappears. What you're experiencing is not the loss of yourself. It is the loss of the version of you that survived on fear. During this dark night, everything that was surface level begins to fall away. The masks, the social armor, the persona you used to keep people close. You start speaking less, but your words become heavier. You start tolerating less, but your boundaries become cleaner. You stop chasing because you finally see how much it cost you. And something subtle starts happening. Your energy begins to consolidate. Your presence deepens. Your emotional field reorganizes itself. People might not understand what's happening to you. They may say you feel different, calmer, harder to read, more grounded. They may tell you that you seem distant, but what they're sensing is that your energy is no longer stretched thin, trying to please the world. Your inner world is becoming coherent. This coherence is the seed of true magnetism, because once you've gone through the dark night, you no longer tolerate performing for attention. You no longer abandon yourself to be chosen. You no longer confuse intensity with intimacy. You stop searching for reflections of your worth in other people's eyes. Instead, you begin to feel your own gravity. And that gravity, quiet, heavy, rooted, is what draws people toward you without effort. Every deeply magnetic person has walked through a night where nothing made sense, where the world felt far away, where they were stripped down to their essence. It is not a punishment. It is a passage, a shedding, a reorganization, a rebirth of energy. And when you come out the other side, you do not return as who you were. You return as someone people can feel before you say a word. 12. Daily practices for cultivating an irresistible field. Once your energy begins to reorganize from the inside, you're no longer trying to be magnetic. Instead, you're learning how to maintain the frequency that naturally draws people in. Magnetism isn't a performance. It's a state you return to, day after day, through simple practices that anchor your nervous system, clean your energy, and keep you aligned with your center rather than your wounds. These practices aren't about looking confident or acting powerful. They're about creating the internal conditions where your natural presence can rise without force. Let's explore the essentials. Grounding. Slowing your internal tempo. Your energy becomes irresistible when it stops racing. So at least once a day, take 3 minutes to slow your breath and feel your weight in your body. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. Drop your shoulders. Unclench your jaw. Feel the floor beneath you. When your internal rhythm slows, people instinctively feel more comfortable around you. You become the calmest nervous system in the room, and humans attune to the calmest system they can find. This is biology, not magic. Presence. Letting the moment lead instead of your mind. Most people live in mental noise, rehearsing, predicting, monitoring. Presence is what cuts through that. Practice looking at someone when they speak, not to analyze or judge, but simply to receive them. This communicates more confidence than any posture ever could. Your presence says, "I am here with you," and the body of the other person relaxes into that steadiness. Magnetism begins where self-consciousness ends. Breath-led responses, speaking from your body, not your fear. Before you answer a question, breathe. Before you reveal something vulnerable, breathe. Before you say yes or no, breathe. A single breath puts you back into your center and prevents your old survival patterns from speaking for you. When your responses come from your body instead of your fear, your words gain weight. People feel the difference immediately. Boundary sentences. Communicating without collapsing. You don't need dramatic confrontations. You don't need to justify yourself. You don't need to over-explain. Practice simple, clean boundary sentences like, "I'm not available for that. This doesn't feel right for me. I need time to think. I prefer something different." When spoken calmly, boundaries strengthen your energy field and make people trust you more. A person who can say no without fear radiates self-respect. Heart-centered communication. Softness without performance. Softness is not weakness. Softness is emotional clarity without insecurity. You don't have to sound detached to be powerful. You don't have to hide your warmth to seem strong. You don't have to freeze your emotions to appear unbothered. True magnetism is calm warmth, the combination of openness and groundedness. When your heart is open and your nervous system is steady, your presence becomes unforgettable. These practices don't change who you are. They reveal who you are without fear, without chasing, without the old patterns hijacking your energy. And the more consistently you return to these practices, the more your energy becomes something people feel long before they understand why. 13. The portrait of someone who is irresistible without trying. Now that we've explored the practices, let's bring the entire transformation into a clear, living image. A portrait of someone who is effortlessly magnetic, not the exaggerated, dramatic archetype you see in media, not the loudest person in the room, not the one who dominates with force or seduction. An irresistible person, in real psychological terms, is someone whose energy is coherent, whose presence is grounded, whose inner world is no longer fighting itself. Let me show you what this actually looks like. They move slowly, not cautiously. There is no frantic motion in their body, no rushed gestures, no nervous fidgeting. Their movements have weight, not heaviness, but intention. Slowness signals safety. Safety signals strength. Strength draws people in. Their eyes are steady, not searching. They don't scan the room for approval. They don't monitor reactions. They don't track themselves through the eyes of others. Their gaze rests instead of hunts. And when they look at you, you feel seen, not evaluated. Their voice is calm, even in emotion, not monotone, not forced, simply regulated. Their voice feels like a grounded exhale, measured, warm, present. People lean in because calmness lowers the defenses of everyone around them. They take up space without taking over the room. They don't shrink to avoid attention. They don't expand to demand it. They simply occupy their body fully, as if they have a right to be here without justification. And they do. They listen without anticipating. They aren't rehearsing their responses. They aren't waiting for their turn to speak. They aren't calculating how they're being perceived. They let the moment unfold. Their attention relaxes you. Their presence makes you feel important. Because they are actually here, not somewhere inside their own anxiety. They are warm without being needy. Warmth without neediness is rare. Most people offer warmth to receive something in return. But someone with irresistible energy gives warmth because they are overflowing, not because they are hungry. You feel the difference instantly. Their boundaries are clean, not harsh. They say no without apology. They say yes without fear. They don't justify themselves. They don't over-explain. They don't betray their center to keep the peace. Their boundaries feel like clarity, not rejection. They don't perform. They emanate. Everything about them feels natural. Nothing feels rehearsed. Nothing feels edited. Nothing feels strained. Their energy flows outward, not because they are trying to impress, but because their inner world is aligned. And alignment is magnetic. This is what it means to be irresistible without effort. A coherent nervous system, a grounded presence, a relaxed heart, a mind that is not fighting itself, and a soul that no longer negotiates for worth. It's not performance. It's not perfection. It's not strategy. It's the quiet confidence that rises when you finally return to yourself. 14. Closing line and inner commitment. As we move into the final moments of this journey, I want you to take a breath and feel the truth of everything you've discovered here. Because the kind of magnetism you're seeking is not something you perform, manufacture, or chase. It's something you remember. It's the version of you that existed before anxiety taught you to shrink, before rejection taught you to harden, before love taught you to earn what should have been freely given. Your irresistible energy isn't something you create. It's what rises when the noise falls away. So I want to offer you one sentence, a sentence that holds the essence of this entire transformation. Irresistible energy doesn't appear when you try harder. It appears when you stop abandoning yourself. Let that land, because every time you silence your truth, every time you chase someone who cannot meet you, every time you dim your presence to be accepted, every time you perform instead of express, you step away from your own center. And every time you return to yourself, through breath, through grounding, through honesty, through boundaries, your energy becomes coherent again. And coherence is magnetic. So here, in this moment, I want you to make a quiet inner commitment, not to become someone else, not to impress anyone, not to seek validation from the outside world, but to stop abandoning the self who's been waiting for you to come home. If you can hold that commitment, even imperfectly, your presence will begin to reshape itself, and people will feel the shift long before you ever speak it aloud. 15. Gratitude. Pause and closing. Before we close, I want you to take one final slow breath, not for me, but for yourself. Feel your chest rise. Feel your shoulders soften. Feel the quiet inside you becoming just a little more spacious, a little more grounded, a little more yours. This entire journey wasn't about changing who you are. It was about clearing the noise so your true presence could finally be felt. By you first, and by others, naturally. If something in you softened, if something clicked, if something inside you felt seen or understood, I want you to honor that. And now, take a moment and choose one word. A word that captures the energy you want to carry forward after this video. It might be calm, rooted, magnetic, open, whole, or any word your intuition whispers. Type that word in the comments, not as a performance but as a signal to yourself, a small act of claiming the frequency you are ready to live from. Thank you for being here, for listening with depth, and for allowing yourself to evolve in real time. Your energy is already different, and the world will feel it. Final closing message. Thank you for staying all the way until the end. The fact that you're here tells me something important about you. You are not just consuming information. You are becoming someone new. Remember this: your energy changes long before your life does. Your frequency shifts first, and then the world rearranges itself around who you've become. So as you step back into your day, don't rush. Don't collapse back into old patterns. Don't forget what you felt moving inside you. Walk a little slower. Breathe a little deeper. Let your presence settle instead of scatter. Your magnetism doesn't begin in your actions. It begins in the quiet choices you make when no one is watching. The choice to stay with yourself. The choice to breathe instead of chase. The choice to trust your energy instead of forcing outcomes. And if you ever doubt your progress, come back to this space. Let it remind you of who you're becoming, not through effort, but through alignment. If this journey resonated with you, I invite you to subscribe, stay connected, and continue exploring the deeper layers of your inner world with me. Your evolution is already in motion. Your energy is already shifting, and the world will feel the version of you that you're allowing yourself to become. Until next time, stay grounded, stay open, and stay true to the energy that is finally, quietly, powerfully yours.